Now let's take a look at copying the multiple geometries onto our points. So let's create a geometry node, dive inside, and let's create a test geometry rubber toy and a test geometry squab and a test geometry pig. So let's merge all of these three geometries by creating a merge node. Select all three and let's set the display flag to merge. Now as you can see, we have merged all of our three geometries. And for copying, let's create a add node to add a point. So P to bring up its parameter, number of points, click on the plus button to add a point at the origin. Let's duplicate that node again, and here let's add a offset. Let's duplicate it again and let's add further offset, and let's merge all of these 3 points. So if we middle click, here is, as you can see, we have 3 points. So now let's create a copy to point sub, and these are our geometry and these are our points, and let's set the display flag to the copy to points. And now as you can see, all of our geometries have been copied onto these 3 points. So when we merge these 3 geometries, the copy to point sub thinks that all of these 3 geometries are in fact a one piece of geometry. So the copy to point sub has no way of knowing on which geometry to copy onto the which points. So for that, let's create an attribute. So let's add an attribute create, and let's create a name attribute for our geometries. So let's connect that. So here onto the attribute name, let's name this to be a name attribute. So the name is a string. So here onto the type where it says float, let's change this to string, and let's name our rubber toy to be rubber toy, and let's duplicate this node again, connect it here, and let's name this squab and duplicate it again, and let's name this to be pig. So now we have created the unique name attribute for of our geometries. So we need these name attribute onto these points as well, so that copy to point sub knows which geometry to copy to which point. Okay, so let's connect first one to the first point, second one to the second point, and third one to the third. Okay, so now if we middle click, you see we have the name attribute. We can go into the geometry spreadsheet and click on the merge node to view its geometry attributes. So here, as you can see, we have created a name attribute, and for the point 1 we have the rubber toy, and point 2 we have the squab, and third point we have the pig. So if we set the display flag to the copy to point sub, so it's still not working. So we need to go into the copy to point sub, and let's check the piece attribute, and the piece attribute is already set to name. So now it is using the name attribute, and it is looking for the name attribute on both sides of the stream. So now the copy to point sub knows which geometry to copy onto which points. Okay, so you can manually select these name attributes from both sides, but we can also automate this. So for that, we're gonna use the connectivity sub. So what the connectivity sub will do, it will look for the connectivity of these points. So if this is a one connected piece of geometry, so it will name this geometry to a one piece, So here the attribute is set to class, so let's name this to name. So now if we middle click, you see we have created an name attribute, so it is an integer, so you can set this to string. So now if you middle click, you see now we have the name string and we have the 12 unique attributes, and here we don't need the name attribute. So here we have the 12 unique, and that is because the test geometry rubber toy has multiple connected geometries. So if I select my selector tool and here onto the select, let's check the 3D connected geometry. So here as you can see, this is a one single connected piece, and this is another, this is another. Okay, so to fix that, let's add a pack sop to pack our rubber toy geometry. So if I middle click, you see I have a 12,000 points. So when I connect the pack sop, and now if I middle click, now you see I have 1 point. So basically we are packing our geometry. We will talk more about pack primitives more detailed later in the course. For now, let's add a pack, and now you see we have a one pack geometry. So now if we set the display flag onto the connectivity sub and middle click, now you see we have the name and we have 3 unique name attribute. Okay, so let's delete the name attribute from here as well, and let's see how we can transfer this name attribute onto these points as well. So because we need the name attribute onto the points so that the copy to point sub knows which geometry to copy onto which point. So for that, let's create an attribute from pieces sub. So the attribute from pieces sub has 2 inputs. One is the point cloud, so that is our point cloud, and the second the geometry library. So this is our geometry library. So now the attribute from pieces sub is copying the name attribute from this stream to these points. So let's connect that, and now if we set the display flag onto the copy to points, now as you can see we are copying multiple geometries onto these points. So which means I can create more points. So let's add a grid. So let's delete that, we don't need these. So here we have the grids. Let's connect the grid into the attribute from pieces, and now let's set the display flag on copy to points, and now as you can see we are copying multiple geometries. So let me make the grid scale up bigger. Maybe let's lower the rows and columns. Okay, so whenever you connect another geometry, let's say create a platonic solid, and if I connect this into the merge, now as you can see the platonic will add it automatically. Okay, so here onto the attribute from pieces sub we have the name attribute distribution. So the mode is set to cycle, so which means that it is cycling. So for the first point, so if I set the display flag onto the grid and enable my point number, so here we have the point 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the attribute from pieces sub is cycling these geometries. So we have the 4 geometries, so it will assign the first geometry onto the first point and to the second and third and etc. So if we set the display flag and let me hide the point number, so now we have the rubber toy, squab, pig and the platonic. We can change the distribution from the attribute from pieces. So we'll say mode cycle, let's change this to patches, and now we are distributing these objects using these noise patches. So here we have the scale of the individual patches. You can also use the noise. So now we are using the noise to copy, to set the name attribute. You can also change this to random. Now the object will be copied randomly onto these points. I can offset it, and here is the random seed. Okay, so that's basically how you can copy multiple geometries.